Watching all angles with myself, Ropwa Madzana. Let's bring you this story now. Communications and Digital Technologies Minister Khumbuzo Ntshavheni has announced the government will be providing 10 gigabytes of free data per month to every single household. Now, the Right to Know campaign has welcomed this pronouncement, but questions about what happened to previous promises are still lingering. The minister had previously promised to place a spectrum to local radio stations. Now, the activist group says this might be another empty promise. Interim Programmes Coordinator Sthembiso Khuluse joins me now for more on this. Thank you very much for your time, Sthembiso. And as I was trying to ask you previously before we were cut off, it's a tall pronouncement from the minister, and I just wonder if logistically this will be possible.
Yes, thank you for having me. You know, you're right. This is a very bold statement made by the minister, both physically and also the amount of research that needs to go into these things. So, as the Right to Know, because we always advocate for free and fast internet, we have welcomed the pronouncement by the minister. But in reality, is it feasible? Can they really do it this time? It will be good for the South African people if this can be done. But the biggest question is, can they really do it? They've promised to allocate spectrum before, but they failed to do it. There are a lot of questions that one needs to ask themselves before you really can accept such bold statement made in public, because this is not the first time the minister or public officials have made such statement in public. You have to ask yourself, what does the minister mean by saying 10 gig per household? What is the meaning of per household? Is it mean, are they going to prioritize people according to income, according to where they live? Obviously you can expect that someone who stays in Sandton, someone who stays in rural areas will also get the same amount of data. There's a lot of things that goes into this. If they consider using technology that will make sure that people get proper coverage, because there's still an issue with coverage here in South Africa. The fact that the government is busy cutting the budget. Next week we are hoping to see if what minister is saying will be supported by the budget. So for many years, the government and officials have been promising, but this thing, they never came into being realized to be able for South African people to benefit from these things. So yeah, it's a bold statement. It would be good if it can really happen, but we are waiting to see if this really happens.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting thing that you mentioned there, Sthembiso, because it would be interesting to understand what informs these announcements that are made by these ministers. I mean, if you think about 10 gigs of data in every single household, that already is a very problematic statement, because the infrastructure in the currently doesn't allow for that. And another issue is that we've still got this back and forth with spectrum and the auctioning of spectrum. I mean, it's to take place in March, but there have been years of issues around that alone. So, I mean, in your engagement with government and related stakeholders, what informs these announcements?
I think the government, even themselves, they're struggling to answer that question, because in our engagement with other stakeholders, we are asking ourselves, where is this 10 gig coming from? Is it even enough? What kind of research that backs this kind of decision that's made by the minister? Because these things, you can't just go out and pronounce them. You must have proper research that will guide you to say, okay, 10 gig is enough. And also there's still a backlash when it comes to spectrum allocation. Telkom is in court, even though the minister, when he delivered at his speech, is saying Telkom has agreed to withdraw their case. Telkom is not totally agreed to withdraw their case. Telkom has said no, they are withdrawing one part of the first part of their interdicts, and then if Telkom wins the second part, it means the council will have to go back and redo the whole thing. So now there must be delay. So it's very bold and very brave for the minister to come up and say they will provide for every household. This is a very bold statement. But indeed, we are going to be engaging the minister to see if there are plans, there is a budget to support this, because we don't want this to be turned out to be one of these shop tops when they want to score points with the South African voters as we are moving to the national elections.
Right now, of course, the access to telecommunications for every South African is absolutely vital. So should, by some miracle, the minister be able to make good on her promise, Sthembiso, what are the benefits of South Africans having access to free data, you know, the positive implications for young unemployed people, for example?
You know, we live in a world of technology. Fourth industrial revolution, you know, everything is online. Even government services are online, education is online, health services are online, you know. So for young people to be online, it's very beneficial. There are lots of information. You know, I once worked in a rural school back in the years. You know, when the young people in school were given assignments, so all they have to go online and do researches, become difficult because in that area there was no connection. Even at school there was no connection. There were no libraries, there were no access to internet. You know, business proposals are online. They are online, especially now that we are in this COVID space. So most of the things are done online. There are online classes. You know, business engagements are online. When young people want to apply, they must go online. You know, so the internet is very critical when it comes to the development of our people, and especially young people.
And then just in terms of this rollout, Sthembiso, should government or the department that Khumbuzo Ntshavheni is running not prioritize the institutions that need the data first? You've just made an example of school facilities. Should we not be focusing on priority institutions like clinics and hospitals and schools before we roll it out to individual households?
Yes, we do. I think schools, obviously, they are important, and clinics, they are important. But also, we must also remember that there is in school and out of school activities. You know, so when students are in school, surely they will need the internet. But also when they are in communities, you know, there will be need for internet, because there might be some assignment that should take them home. You know, there might be some research. They can't stay all day in school. Also, there is a need for public to have open Wi-Fi, so the public can also be informed. And also, you know, children, when they are out of school, they're able to access internet.
No, absolutely. And then just going forward, are you hoping that there will be quite a strong engagement, but also proactive relationships between yourselves and the minister should any kind of rollout begin? That's going to be very important, because as we've seen with various things, government is not able to implement a lot of its programs on its own.
Yes, obviously. We are open, we are willing to engage the minister. Actually, we are going to write to the minister, initiate engagements, because as an organization, we've been always advocating for Wi-Fi access in communities. You know, we've done our own research on the ground. We know what is happening on the ground. So the stakeholder consultation will be of benefits to both the minister and the public, you know, to share information of what is happening. Also to learn of what kind of research and information does the minister have in hand to also support the decisions that she's taking and her department.